Yeah, I am Tamara Walser, and I'm a professor at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington in the United States. And in terms of my areas of interest, anything evaluation basically, but I focus a lot right now on teaching of evaluation, also evaluation approaches, including the topic mostly of probably this conversation of evaluability assessment. And I'm also interested in evaluation capacity building.
Okay, and Mike Trevisan, I'm a faculty member at Washington State University in Pullman, Washington on the West Coast. And I'm currently the dean of my college. I'm a professor of educational psychology and have focused on evaluation for many years. Tamara and I have teamed up probably for 10 or more years on evaluability assessment, capacity building, and the teaching of evaluation. And we have a couple of books together and lots of presentations and workshops, particularly international workshops on EA.
Thank you very much. The theme for this year's conference is Actions and Shifting Paradigms for Challenging Times. The COVID-19 pandemic has significantly disrupted our ways of working and thinking as evaluators. Related to this, what would you say then are the biggest challenges you face as an evaluator in the past few years?
So I would say just, in terms of evaluation specifically, I don't know that I want to talk about, I wouldn't really consider it challenges. I think it's a lesson that we always need to keep in mind, which is as evaluators, we have to be really flexible and that we have to keep the human element in mind. And so I think it's always a matter for us as evaluators to do what's needed in the way that's needed and to kind of to work with people to get the types of information that they need given the context. The context the past couple of years has been a pandemic, but there's always a context associated with any evaluation you do. And so I think that understanding that context and being flexible within those parameters and being people-centered and human-centered is always the priority for us in our work.
I do a lot of international work, and that's been stymied during the pandemic, particularly around school-based counseling. There is a good deal of work and emphasis on the use of program evaluation and policy research. And this work has been relegated to online meetings and this sort of thing. Here in the U.S., most schools were closed for the longest period of time. Now that they're open, they're reluctant, to have people come in. So this is the challenge we face. And I like Tamara's point. We need to be flexible and adapt as things come.
So related to this, how have you seen the approaches to evaluations shift in the last few years? Has there been a change? Has there not been a change?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it kind of goes back to my previous response, but I do think that we've had to be creative in our flexibility. And so I think that's something that we should be, again, anyway, regardless of pandemic or not. I'll say that also the pandemic, as well as other things going on in the U.S. and across the globe, have really shined a light on issues of equity and social justice, and I see that being highlighted and reinforced and brought to the center in evaluation work as well. And so I think that light that has really been kind of shined on those things that we can do as evaluators is important going forward.
And I would reiterate the focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, and disparities within the systems and the like, and thus the need to employ evaluation approaches and strategies that are responsive to those things. is important. The other, with my school-based counseling work, I'm part of an international coalition of folks, and what we've done is used research that has been done to document mental health challenges that K-12 students have faced, and use that as a mechanism to leverage for more, or at least to recognize the importance of school-based counseling, and then within that, the importance of that evaluation can play. So this is, and that's kind of a pandemic phenomena at the moment.
So in terms of the conference and the professional development workshops, what prompted you to propose a workshop on your particular topic, evaluability assessment?
Yeah. I think one of the things that Mike and I have noticed, we co-authored a book on evaluability assessment that was published back in 2015, and even at that time, we were seeing a variety of new, unique, again, flexible ways that people are using evaluability assessment. And so, we've been tracking that and keeping our eyes on what's been going on with evaluability assessment. And what we're seeing is this idea of, kind of what we phrase as transformative evaluability assessment. So evaluability assessment used in ways to better address the complexity of kind of current programs and policies and initiatives that we're evaluating. And so I think that for us, it's a constant updating of our thinking and our work in pushing the theory around evaluability assessment based on what we're seeing in practice largely.
And I would add here that EA is really versatile. We've discovered simply by looking at practice that EA is being used for a wide variety of purposes, and in recent times, with such a focus on disparities, diversity, equity, inclusion, EA lends itself rather naturally to respond to those kinds of issues and important features in our communities. So it fits really well. In addition, we continue to find evidence that EA is being used in this sector or that sector, or by this group or that group all over the world. There's nothing that seems to tie all these ends together except, us trying to one workshop at a time. So it creates a situation where we feel like there's a market for it and then a need for it, and so we're happy to step in the mix.
So then if you could briefly explain what attendants to your professional development workshop can expect from your session, that would be fantastic, actually, like a small preview.
Yeah, I would just say, kind of our evolving kind of understanding and application of evaluability assessment, there will be a focus on that, kind of sharing what we're seeing in practice and things that have been published with lots of examples, and of course lots of opportunities to apply this for folks to apply it to their particular context. And I think one of the things that we know is that people are going to come to this workshop working, they're already typically, working evaluators. And so them really being part of the conversation with us, part of the dialogue with us, them sharing what they've seen and how they might be able to use a more formative evaluability assessment approach in their work. So really bringing them on board as thought partners as well, not just participants in our workshop.
I think extending this, I think that people will find that there'll be a considerable amount of hands-on kind of work. So what we try to do is provide the concepts and then give practical application exercises In addition, we anticipate that there could be some people more experienced and have knowledge of EA. So what we would try to do is capitalize on their expertise in the context of the workshop.
And about the conference itself, is there anything that you find particularly exciting, or maybe a talk that's going to be given, or a topic that's going to be discussed that you find, yeah, particularly exciting in this year's iteration of the yEES conference?
Yeah. But for me, I'm just really excited to be at an in-person conference because this will be my first one since pre-pandemic. So I'm really excited to just be in community with other evaluators. In kind of looking at the program, something that catches my eye is the role of evaluation in environmental sustainability. So there's a bit of a thread throughout. So I'm really interested in learning more about that and being part of those conversations.
I see a number of sessions that are focused on doing evaluation in particular countries, sectors of the world. So I'm always interested in looking at evaluation from an in-country political, cultural context. So I would be eager to attend some of those sessions. And yeah, I actually attended a meeting in Bangalore, India in January of 2020. And then, February, the dark curtain fell. So that was my last meeting. So like Tamara, I'm eager to be at an in-person meeting.
Fantastic. Honestly, likewise. Final few questions are about evaluation and youth. Firstly, what future role do you see for young evaluators in this new post-pandemic world?
Yeah, I mean, I think the future is wide open, and I'm excited to see what new and young evaluators are doing and bringing to the field and to our community of evaluators. I've been really impressed and to see them kind of pushing the envelope in the work that they do. So I think it's wide open.
And evaluation continues to expand worldwide. So I just think there's marvelous opportunity for young people entering the professional workforce to grab a foothold, as it were, and do some really interesting work. We've been stymied for the last couple of years, but so has every other sector in the economy and in the world. So that's no different. I would suspect that when there is more comfort in people mixing up with others, traveling, and that kind of thing, and maybe we're not too far from that. Here's hoping that evaluation will take off once again.
And I mean, obviously, you're both, if I may, at the top of the field. To me and to other young and emerging evaluators, what is sort of one piece of advice that you would both give?
One of the things, because I coordinate an evaluation master's program here at UNC Wilmington, and one of the things that I've really focused on a lot with the students in that program is values. And so kind of understanding and identifying and knowing your own values. And there are lots of reasons for this, but a primary reason, and one that we've talked a lot about in the courses I teach, is making sure that the evaluation work you do, where you see yourself as an evaluator, aligns with your values. And so that alignment, I think, is really important. And then, of course, it's important to understand your values going in and doing evaluation work, because you're always looking through your own personal, professional lens at whatever it is you're working to evaluate. So there are lots of reasons, but number one reason is to help you really focus and know when to say yes and know when to say no, and understand what sorts of contexts you might want to work in when you're looking for a career in evaluation. Where might you work that will help you fulfill and align with your values.
I see, in addition to what Tamara's saying, I would add three things. Um, One is, it probably sounds a little on the negative side, but I mean it in a positive way, and that is, uh, people are, you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. That's just part of the deal, and those are probably some of the best teachers that one can have is the mistakes, but to, you know, take it in, be reflective, and then go back out with kind of a renewed, refined spirit. I think would be, I think that would hold people in a positive way. I think the other is the history of evaluation is one of method. And what we've found out in recent years is that evaluation to be successful is really a person-centered activity. So having solid non-technical skills, interpersonal skills, ability to communicate well, effectively working in groups, these kinds of things, I think will hold evaluators in a good way, and I think are important to keep in mind. And I think the last one, which goes a little bit like the second thing I just mentioned, is culture. Culture, and as Tamara mentioned, context is so important in doing evaluation. There are nuances in every in-country situation, and I think it's important that if evaluators are going to work in another country for whatever reason, but for, in this case, doing evaluation work, being mindful of the culture. I like doing work in other countries and cultures. I enjoy trying to figure out how to navigate the culture, but it's so important, I think, for doing evaluation work.
Fantastic. Looking back at your own career and your own experiences, are there any pitfalls / common mistakes young evaluators should avoid?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm going to tie this back to the values piece and just say that kind of working and living your values is really important. And so I would encourage folks to, early on, in the beginning of when you're talking to someone about the evaluation work that you might be, you're considering engaging. I think you need to be really clear up front in terms of who you are as an evaluator and what's important to you as an evaluator and how you work. Because if you're not, then you may find that you're working in a way that is not in alignment with what you think is important. So, for me, if I'm, talking to someone I may want to do some evaluation work with, I need it to be a collaborative process. And if up front, if they can't commit to a collaborative process, then it's not a project that I'm interested in being part of. And those are not things that I did early in my career, because early in my career, I just wanted to work. I wanted to do evaluation. So, kind of whatever somebody had, and I would think, well, we'll figure this stuff out later. Well, what happens is you don't often figure this stuff out later unless you kind of set the stage, set it up front in terms of, this is how I do evaluation work. And so is this something that is of interest and value to you? And if so, let's proceed and talk about what this could look like. If not, then I'm probably not the right evaluator for you, and that's okay too. But a lot of people don't necessarily understand what evaluation is and what it can be and what it can do. And so having those conversations up front about those aspects of evaluation that are important, I think you have to do that from the start. And so that's kind of my one piece of advice, is to have those conversations and agreements up front.
Okay. And what I would add here is, and I've forgotten who the author was who made this statement, but evaluation always happens in a political context. So when a person's working with an organization, it would have helped me out early on if I would have seen that finding an individual who is experienced with the organizational culture and politic and help me navigate that. Somebody who might be the champion internally for the evaluation, I think is also important. And this keeping people engaged and motivated is pretty challenging, particularly if it goes on for months and months, evaluation. So having that one or two people who can help you navigate would be really important.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the conference, and like I said, learning with others, or not just, in kind of our workshop and our topic, but other topics as well, other areas of evaluation, just kind of opening my mind up a little bit.
Yeah, and same here. I'm looking forward to being in Copenhagen and being in the presence of other people who are also interested in evaluation. It's pretty attractive, pretty enticing.